My best friend faked my death online for Instagram likes, so I exposed her lies to everyone. A year later, she's back, crying at my doorstep, begging me to fix her ruined reputation. When I first got to college, I expected it to be the college experience that the movies always talk about. Instead, I spent my first month eating completely alone in the hallways, feeding my TikTok scrolling addiction to help myself feel less like a loser LMAO. Every night I went to sleep fantasizing about dropping out, but I knew my immigrant parents would completely crash out if I ever dared to bring that up, so I just ranted in my notes app LOL. So this is the state I was in when I met Ava. She saw me sitting alone one day and told me she liked my shoes. And from there, our friendship was born. She even added me to the Snapchat group chats. Whenever I posted on Instagram, I felt so cool because I'd get dozens of comments from girls in high school and college hyping me up. There was just one red flag. Ava was obsessed with her social media presence, like really obsessed. One time we went out for brunch, and as I was about to put my bacon in my mouth, she grabbed my wrist and made me put everything down so she could take a photo. At the time, I didn't mind because she had 15,000 followers that she needed to update, but she ended up trying to find the right angle for almost a full hour. But I figured that if this was her only flaw, then that was okay. Soon our friendship developed into one of those codependent bestie friendships that basically feels like a relationship. If we weren't hanging out in person, then we'd be on FaceTime. But she was about to become my biggest op. That summer, I invited her to my family holiday. There was just one thing I was extremely worried about: my autistic brother. He was the type of boy to apologize to the playground swing when it was too dirty for him to use, the type to wave his hands and excitedly scream "hello" to every pigeon he passed by. But Ava really made it seem like she was completely fine with everything. She even got him an expensive toy dinosaur as a late birthday gift. On the first day of the trip, he spent an hour arranging napkins into perfect triangles. In the process, he ended up knocking Ava's designer sunglasses on the floor. They didn't even scratch, but I guess it was still enough to annoy her because she ended up posting a photo of them to her story. "This is why all autistic kids should be put down," was the caption. She even photoshopped a crack into her lens for dramatic effect. "It's my Instagram page, I can post what I want," is all she said when I confronted her. Her tone was so entitled that I swear I thought she was pranking me, but then she turned her body around and went back to doom scrolling. Well, I had heard dozens of stories about how going on holiday with your bestie will always cause fights, and I was determined to disprove that. I had no idea how bad things were about to get. We were by the beach when a couple were taking wedding photos nearby. I was extremely proud of Tommy, because if it was that time a year ago, he would have run up to the couple and tried to join the photos. But now he was just sitting still, smiling wide and playing with the sand. Well, that's when we were hit with the wrath of Ava. When the couple were done taking pictures, Ava grabbed their balloon display to take photos. Cool. Until one of her ugly, freakishly long acrylics accidentally popped one. Tommy immediately tensed up and screamed. When I glanced over at Ava, I expected her to look guilty, or at least stop touching the balloons. But no. Instead, she had this evil smirk on her face like she was some sort of little gremlin. And as soon as I managed to calm Tommy down, she popped another, and another. In the 10 seconds, she had popped 5 more balloons. Too loud, Tommy was screaming, while hitting his head with his fists. It wasn't until I shoved sand into Ava's charging port that she finally stopped. I didn't speak to Ava for the rest of the day, and I was ready to spend my savings on buying her an early flight home. That's when I got the text. It was my mother. Up to this point, we hadn't seen her and my dad all day because it was their wedding anniversary. She sent me a screen recording of Ava's Instagram story. It was a video of Tommy having a meltdown, captioned with "me when the plug cancels on me." And as if that wasn't bad enough, in the next post, she put up a poll saying, "Should we leave him here or nah?" with the only voting options being yes and absolutely. Luckily, my mom was just as angry as me. So her next message was a QR code of the flight she had booked Ava for the next morning. And the second Ava hopped in the Uber to the airport, I blocked her on everything. That evening, my phone was completely blowing up. Everyone was texting saying they had no idea I was struggling with my health. So I made a fake account to check Ava's story. Yep, there it was. A photo of me lying in bed completely photoshopped with AI to make it look like I was on death's doorstep, alongside a GoFundMe link to support my chemotherapy for stage 3 lung cancer. I pinched the bridge of my nose and sighed, because there was one thing Ava didn't know. I would do anything to avenge my brother. I immediately called GoFundMe to report the fraudulent campaign. They took it down within hours, but the damage was already done. Screenshots were circulating, and people were messaging me asking if I was really dying. Some were even angry, thinking I was faking cancer for attention. The irony was almost funny. I tried texting our mutual friends to explain what happened, but most of them didn't believe me. Apparently, Ava had been telling everyone for weeks that I was unstable and attention-seeking. She had perfectly set the stage for this moment, making sure no one would believe me when I tried to defend myself. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Tommy's face when those balloons popped, and how Ava had used his pain for likes. I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. Ava had messed with the wrong family, and I was about to show her exactly what happens when you target my brother. I immediately grabbed my phone and started reporting Ava's fake cancer fundraiser posts on every platform. I figured the social media companies would see how obviously fake they were and take them down right away. Boy, was I wrong. I spent hours submitting reports, only to get automated responses saying they'd review the content. Meanwhile, the posts stayed up, and more people kept messaging me about my condition. My fingers cramped from the endless clicking and typing as I tried desperately to stop the spread of Ava's lies. The next morning, I woke up to a campus email about an emergency disciplinary hearing. Apparently, Ava had gone to the student affairs office claiming I was harassing and threatening her. She showed them fake screenshots of messages where I had supposedly threatened to make her pay and ruin her life. I never sent those messages, but she had created convincing fakes using some editing app, the timestamps, the blue bubbles, even my profile picture. Everything looked authentic. I rushed to the administrative building in my pajamas, not even bothering to brush my hair. The morning air bit at my skin as I sprinted across campus, my heart pounding with each step. The disciplinary officer, a stern woman named Ms. Patel, showed me the screenshots Ava had provided. My heart sank as I looked at them. They looked real. If I didn't know better, I might have believed they came from my phone. "These aren't from me," I explained, pulling out my phone with trembling hands. "Look at my message history with Ava. These conversations never happened." Ms. Patel scrolled through my phone, comparing the timestamps and messages. I could see her expression changing as she realized the screenshots didn't match my actual message history. She asked me to wait outside while she called Ava in. I sat on a hard plastic chair in the hallway, my leg bouncing nervously. The minutes stretched like hours as other students walked by, some glancing at me curiously. 20 minutes later, Ms. Patel called me back in. She explained that while she couldn't prove who was telling the truth, there wasn't enough evidence to take disciplinary action against me. I felt relieved, but also frustrated. Ava was getting away with it. As I left the building, I spotted Ava across the quad, surrounded by a group of girls. She was crying dramatically while they patted her back. Her mascara ran perfectly down her cheeks in a way that seemed almost practiced. When she saw me, she whispered something to them, and they all turned to glare at me. Great. Now I was the villain in her story. That afternoon, I got an email from my English professor asking me to come to his office hours. When I arrived, he had a concerned look on his face, his brow furrowed as he gestured for me to sit down. "I received some concerning information about your mental health," he said carefully. "I want you to know that if you need accommodations or extensions, we can arrange that." I was confused until he showed me an email he'd received. It appeared to be from someone at the campus health center, containing information about my supposed mental health issues. The email claimed I had severe mental instability, described describing delusions, paranoia, and a history of making false accusations. It warned professors that I might make up stories about other students or claim persecution. My stomach dropped as I realized what Ava had done. She hadn't sent actual medical records, but had created a convincing email that appeared to come from a campus health official. The email contained just enough medical terminology and official-sounding language to seem legitimate to someone who wasn't looking too closely. I explained to my professor what was really happening, showing him the Instagram posts about Tommy. He seemed sympathetic but still uncertain, his eyes betraying lingering doubt. "I'll disregard this email," he said, "but you should talk to campus security if you're being harassed." I thanked him and left, but I knew talking to security wouldn't help. Ava was too smart to leave evidence that could be traced back to her. She was creating doubt about my mental stability so that anything I said would be dismissed as paranoia. Over the next few days, I noticed professors watching me closely during class, as if waiting for me to have some kind of breakdown. Some students whispered when I walked by, their conversations abruptly halting when I got too close. My group project partners suddenly had excuses for why they couldn't meet with me. I was being isolated again, just like those first lonely weeks of college, but this time it was deliberate. I decided I needed evidence of what Ava was doing. I reached out to a girl named Diana, who lived in my dorm, but wasn't close to either of us. She had always seemed level-headed and fair. I explained the situation and asked if she'd be willing to help me. Diana agreed to casually bring up my name the next time she saw Ava to see what Ava would say. 2 days later, Diana texted me that she had recorded a conversation with Ava in the dining hall. When I listened to the recording, my blood boiled. Ava was telling Diana that I was dangerously obsessed with her, that I had been following her around campus and sending her threatening messages. She claimed I was jealous of her social media following and was trying to ruin her reputation out of spite. "She's actually kind of scary," Ava's voice said on the recording. "I'm thinking about getting a restraining order. My dad says we have enough evidence." I was furious, but also scared. Ava was painting me as some kind of stalker, and people were believing her. Even with Diana's recording, it was just Ava's word against mine. I needed something more concrete. That night, I got a notification that I'd been added to a new group chat. When I opened it, I saw it was filled with people from my dorm and some of Ava's friends. The most recent message was from Ava. "Guys, I'm actually scared. She's been waiting outside my classes and following me to my dorm. I don't know what to do." As I was reading, new messages poured in. "That's so creepy. We should report her. Do you want us to walk you to class tomorrow?" Then someone tagged me directly. "We know what you're doing. Leave Ava alone or we'll make sure you regret it." I threw my phone across the room. It hit the wall with a crack, but thankfully didn't break. I curled up on my bed, trying not to cry. How had this happened? A month ago, I was just a lonely college freshman trying to find my place. Now I was being painted as a dangerous stalker by someone who had mocked my autistic brother. The next day, a group of Ava's friends confronted me outside the library. There were 5 of them, led by a tall girl named Jacqueline who had always been nice to me before. They surrounded me, blocking my path. Students passing by slowed down to watch the confrontation, some pulling out their phones. "We know what you're doing to Ava," Jacqueline said, her voice cold. "It needs to stop." I tried to explain my side, but they talked over me. One of them took pictures of me, probably to send to Ava as proof they'd confronted me. I pushed past them and practically ran to my dorm, my heart pounding, tears blurring my vision as I fumbled with my keycard. Campus didn't feel safe anymore. I started taking different routes to class, eating meals in my room, and avoiding common areas. I was becoming the very thing Ava accused me of being, paranoid and isolated. My grades began to slip as I missed discussions in study groups, too afraid to face the whispers and stares. I decided to talk to a campus counselor. Maybe they could help me figure out what to do. I made an appointment with Dr. Chen, who seemed kind and understanding when I met her. Her office was warm and inviting, with soft lighting and comfortable chairs. I started explaining everything that had happened, from the beach trip to the fake cancer fundraiser to the disciplinary hearing. Dr. Chen listened attentively, taking notes. But as I continued my story, I noticed her expression change subtly. She began asking more pointed questions about my experiences. "Have you ever felt like people were against you in the past?" she asked carefully. "Do you find it difficult to trust others?" I realized that my story probably sounded paranoid from the outside, a complex web of social media manipulation that had turned an entire campus against me. I pulled out my phone and showed her screenshots of Ava's posts about Tommy and the fake cancer fundraiser. I played Diana's recording. As Dr. Chen reviewed the evidence, her demeanor shifted. "I see," she said, her voice softening. "This is clearly a case of targeted harassment. Let's talk about some strategies to protect yourself and document what's happening." I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Finally, someone believed me without question. Dr. Chen helped me create a plan to document everything Ava did and suggested I speak with the university's legal counsel about possible cease and desist options. That evening, my phone exploded with notifications. My parents called 5 times in a row. My high school friends were texting frantically. Even Tommy's special education teacher reached out. I had no idea what was happening until I checked social media. Ava had posted a memorial tribute to me on her Instagram. According to her post, I had been so overwhelmed with guilt and shame about lying about cancer that I had taken my own life. She included a photoshopped picture of me with the dates of my birth and supposed death, along with a lengthy caption about how she was processing this tragedy and how mental health issues can affect anyone. The post was decorated with angel emojis and broken heart symbols, a masterclass in performative grief. The post had thousands of likes and comments offering condolences. People were sharing memories of me as if I were actually dead. My parents were hysterical, having seen the post through relatives before I could explain. My mom was sobbing so hard on the phone that I could barely understand her. "I'm fine, Mom," I kept repeating. "I'm right here. It's all lies." It took hours to convince my family I was alive and well. My dad wanted to drive to campus immediately. Tommy was confused and upset, not understanding why people were saying his sister was gone when he had just talked to me that morning. I could hear him in the background, repeating, "She's not gone," over and over, his voice rising with distress. After calming my family down, I sat on my bed, staring at the wall. Ava had crossed a line I didn't even know existed. She had faked my death for attention and sympathy. The comments on her post were full of people praising her for being so strong, for sharing her grief so openly. She was getting exactly what she wanted: social media fame and adoration. I called my parents back and explained everything that had been happening. My dad wanted to call the police, but I knew that would just make things worse. Campus police would see it as a she said situation, and Ava had already poisoned the well by making everyone think I was unstable. That's when my mom suggested something unexpected. "What if we don't correct this right away?" "What do you mean?" I asked. "If everyone thinks you're gone," she said carefully, "then Ava won't be watching what she says or does. She might get careless." It was a crazy idea, but it made a strange kind of sense. If Ava thought she had won, she might reveal her true colors to someone who could help me prove what she was doing. My parents agreed to keep quiet about the hoax for 48 hours. I emailed my professors saying I had a family emergency and would be missing classes. Then I deleted all my social media apps and turned off my phone. For all intents and purposes, I disappeared. My roommate Lisa agreed to help me. She wasn't close with Ava and had seen enough of her behavior to believe my side of the story. Lisa would go to a party that weekend where Ava would likely be, wearing a hidden microphone we bought from an electronics store. The plan was risky. If Ava discovered what we were doing, she would just spin it as more evidence of my obsession with her. But I was desperate. I needed something concrete that would show everyone who Ava really was. The night of the party, I sat alone in my dorm room, staring at the ceiling. The walls seemed to close in as I waited, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. Lisa texted updates every hour, Ava had arrived. Ava was drinking. Ava was telling stories about me to a group of people. Around midnight, Lisa burst into our room, her face flushed with excitement. I got it, she said, holding up her phone. I got everything. She played the recording for me. Ava's voice was slightly slurred from alcohol, but perfectly clear. Of course I made it all up, she was saying to someone. She was so boring, following me around like a lost puppy. And her brother? God, what a freak. I couldn't stand being around him for one more minute. A male voice asked, so she didn't really have cancer? Ava laughed. No, idiot. I made that up too. And now everyone thinks she unalived herself because of it. It's perfect. My follower count is up by like 3,000 since yesterday. That's kind of messed up, the guy said. Whatever, Ava replied. It's not my fault people are stupid enough to believe anything they see online. Besides, she deserved it for dumping sand in my phone. Do you know how much an iPhone costs? The recording continued for several more minutes, with Ava bragging about how she had manipulated everyone, from our friends to my professors to the campus counseling center. She admitted to creating fake screenshots, sending emails that appeared to be from health officials, and orchestrating the group confrontation outside the library. I sat in stunned silence when the recording ended. Part of me had still hoped there was some misunderstanding, that Ava wasn't really as calculating and cruel as she seemed, but the recording erased all doubt. She had systematically tried to destroy my life because I stood up for my brother. What are you going to do with it? Lisa asked, her eyes wide with anticipation. I thought for a moment. Send it to me. I need to talk to my parents first. My mom and dad were relieved to hear I had evidence. We discussed our options and decided on a plan. The next morning, I would go to the student affairs office with the recording and my parents. We would file a formal complaint against Ava for harassment, defamation, and creating a hostile environment. But before I could do that, something unexpected happened. One of Ava's friends, a girl named Catherine who I barely knew, sent me a message on Snapchat. I know you're not dead. I heard the recording from last night. Ava is telling everyone she's going to your funeral this weekend for content. This has gone too far. Catherine sent me screenshots of a group chat where Ava was planning to create fake crying videos at a cemetery for her Instagram. She was asking friends to film her breaking down by a random grave that she would claim was mine. She had even bought a bouquet of white roses and planned her outfit, a modest black dress that would look good with a filter. That was the final straw. I forwarded everything to my parents, who immediately called the dean of students. We set up an emergency meeting for that afternoon. When I walked into the administration building with my parents, I felt a strange sense of calm. I had spent weeks feeling powerless, watching Ava spin her web of lies, but now I had proof. I had the truth on my side. The dean, Dr. Williams, listened to our story with increasing concern. When we played the recording, his face darkened. He asked for copies of everything. The recording, the screenshots, the fake memorial post, the fabricated emails Ava had sent to my professors. This is one of the most disturbing cases of harassment I've seen in my 20 years at this university, he said. I assure you we will take immediate action. While we were in the meeting, my phone buzzed with notifications. Word was spreading that I was alive. Ava had posted a shocked update claiming she had just received word that reports of my death were incorrect. She was trying to backpedal, suggesting there had been a misunderstanding and that she was overjoyed to learn I was okay. But it was too late. The recording from the party was circulating. Students were sharing it in group chats and on social media. People who had believed Ava's lies were now seeing the truth. Her carefully constructed image was crumbling in real time. By that evening, Ava's Instagram account had been set to private. Her followers were dropping by the hundreds. The friends who had confronted me outside the library were sending apologies. Professors who had received the fake emails were reaching out to express their support. The next day, Dr. Williams called me to his office. Ava had been suspended pending a full investigation. She had already packed her things and left campus, unwilling to face the backlash from her former friends and followers. We've contacted her parents, Dr. Williams explained. They're as shocked as everyone else. Apparently, she's been creating elaborate fictions on social media for years. This isn't the first time she's fabricated serious allegations about someone, but it's certainly the most extreme case. I felt a strange mix of emotions, relief that it was over, anger at what she had put me and my family through, and sadness that someone could be so desperate for attention that they would go to such lengths. That weekend, I went home to see my family. Tommy ran to hug me the moment I walked through the door, his arms wrapping tightly around my waist. I knew you weren't gone, he said simply. Bad people tell lies. I hugged him back, tears in my eyes. You're right, Tommy. Bad people do tell lies, but they don't win in the end. As I sat with my family that night, watching Tommy arrange his dinosaur collection in perfect rows, I thought about Ava. Her need for validation had cost her everything. Her friends, her education, her reputation. All the followers in the world couldn't fill whatever emptiness drove her to such cruelty. My phone buzzed with a message from Lisa. She had sent a screenshot of Ava's Instagram account. It was completely gone, deleted or deactivated. The digital empire she had built on lies had finally collapsed. I put my phone away and turned my attention back to my family. Tommy was explaining the difference between a stegosaurus and an ankylosaurus, his face animated with joy. This was what mattered. This was real. The next week, I returned to campus with a new perspective. The whispers and stares had transformed into supportive smiles and friendly waves. People who had never spoken to me before stopped to check how I was doing. Professors who had once watched me suspiciously now praised my resilience. I found myself surrounded by genuine friends, not the superficial connections Ava had offered, but people who had seen the truth and stood by me. Lisa, Diana, Catherine, and others formed a support system I never expected to have. As for Ava, I heard she transferred to a school on the opposite coast, where no one knew her story. Part of me hoped she would learn from this experience, that she would understand the damage her actions had caused. But another part of me knew that people like Ava rarely change. They just find new audiences for their performances. I decided to channel my experience into something positive. I started a campus support group for students with autistic siblings or family members. I shared Tommy's story, not as a source of shame or mockery, but as a celebration of his unique perspective on the world. The group quickly grew, with students sharing their own experiences and challenges. One evening, as I was leaving a meeting of the support group, I received a final message from an unknown number. It was Ava. You ruined my life, the message read. I hope you're happy. I stared at the phone for a long moment, considering how to respond. Then I blocked the number without replying. Ava had tried to destroy me with lies. I had defended myself with truth. There was nothing left to say. I didn't respond to Ava's message. What was the point? She'd spent months trying to destroy my life with lies, and I'd finally exposed her with the truth. There was nothing more to say. I tossed my phone onto my bed and stared out the window at the campus quad below. Students were walking to class, laughing, completely unaware of the drama that had consumed my life. I felt weirdly disconnected from it all, like I was watching a movie of someone else's college experience. The next morning, I woke up to another flood of messages. Not from Ava this time, but from random accounts I didn't recognize. Some were supportive, saying they'd heard what happened and were on my side. Others were nasty, calling me a liar and attention seeker. Apparently, Ava had created a new account and was still trying to spin her version of events. I scrolled through a few messages before giving up and tossing my phone aside again. I was so tired of all this. I dragged myself to class, keeping my head down and hoping no one would notice me. Fat chance. Everyone was staring and whispering. I slid into a seat in the back row and tried to focus on the lecture, but my mind kept wandering. What was Ava's endgame here? She'd been exposed. The recording was clear evidence of her lies. Why couldn't she just accept defeat and move on? After class, a girl named Janet approached me. I vaguely recognized her from one of the Snapchat groups Ava had added me to months ago. Hey, I just wanted to say I believe you, she she said, shifting awkwardly from foot to foot. Ava did something similar to my roommate last year. Not as extreme, but yeah, she has issues. I thanked her, surprised by the support. As I walked across campus, 2 more people stopped me to say similar things. Apparently, Ava had a history of manipulating people that went back further than I realized. I wasn't her first target, just her most ambitious one. When I got back to my dorm, Lisa was waiting with news. She'd been monitoring the social media fallout and discovered something interesting. Ava had created a new Instagram account and was now claiming to be the victim of a cancel culture mob. She was painting herself as misunderstood and persecuted. Check this out, Lisa said, showing me her phone. Ava had posted a tearful video explaining how she'd been framed by jealous haters who edited audio to make her look bad. The comments were a mix of people calling her out and others defending her. The defenders seemed to be mostly people who didn't know her personally, followers who only saw the carefully curated version of herself she presented online. I shook my head in disbelief. She just won't stop, will she? There's more, Lisa said, swiping to another post. She's planning to come back to campus next week to clear her name in person. She's organizing some kind of gathering at the student union. My stomach dropped. Just when I thought this nightmare was ending, Ava was planning to bring it right back to my doorstep. I called my parents to update them, and my dad immediately wanted to drive up again. I talked him down, assuring him I could handle it. But honestly, I wasn't sure I could. That night, I barely slept. I kept imagining scenarios where Ava showed up with a mob of supporters, or worse, alone and playing the victim so convincingly that people turned against me again. By morning, I was a mess of anxiety and exhaustion. I decided to skip my morning classes and went to see Dr. Williams instead. His secretary tried to tell me he was busy, but when I explained it was about Ava, she immediately ushered me in. Dr. Williams listened gravely as I explained what was happening. I'm aware of Ms. Josie's social media activities, he said when I finished. Campus security has been monitoring the situation. She's currently not permitted on university property, and if she attempts to enter, she will be escorted off campus. That was somewhat reassuring, but I knew Ava. She was resourceful and determined. If she wanted to cause trouble, a campus ban wouldn't stop her. What about her gathering? I asked. She's telling people to meet her at the student union. Dr. Williams frowned. We'll have security present, but I suggest you avoid that area entirely that day. No need to put yourself in a potentially volatile situation. I nodded, though I wasn't sure avoiding Ava was the answer anymore. Running and hiding hadn't worked so far. Maybe it was time to face this head on. The day of Ava's planned return, I woke up with a strange sense of calm. I'd spent the previous evening talking with my support group, and they'd helped me see things differently. Ava only had power if I gave it to her. Her lies only worked if people believed them. And thanks to the recording and screenshots, fewer people were believing her every day. I decided not to hide. I went about my normal routine, attending classes and eating lunch in the dining hall like any other day. Lisa stuck by my side, along with Diana and a few others who'd become friends through this ordeal. We were sitting at our usual table when a commotion erupted near the entrance. Ava had arrived, flanked by 2 girls I didn't recognize, probably followers from her new account who didn't know the real story. She was dressed all in black, like she was attending a funeral, and wearing oversized sunglasses despite being indoors. Classic Ava, always with the dramatics. The dining hall went quiet as she scanned the room, clearly looking for me. When our eyes met, she started walking directly toward our table. My new friends tensed, forming a protective circle around me. I took a deep breath and stood up to face her. You've got a lot of nerve showing up here, I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. Ava pushed her sunglasses up onto her head, revealing eyes rimmed with perfectly applied crying makeup. I just want to talk, she said, her voice carrying across the now silent dining hall. To clear the air. There's nothing to clear, I replied. You lied about me. You lied about my brother. You faked my death for Instagram likes. Everyone knows the truth now. Ava's face hardened for a split second before she composed herself back into victim mode. That recording was edited. You know it was. You've been trying to ruin my life from the beginning because you're jealous of my following. I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. Jealous? Ava, I never cared about your followers. I just wanted a friend. A real friend. Not someone who would mock my autistic brother for content. Ava's 2 companions exchanged uncomfortable glances. Clearly she hadn't filled them in on that part of the story. That's not what happened, Ava insisted, her voice rising. You're twisting everything. Am I? I pulled out my phone and held it up. Should I play the recording again? Right here, in front of everyone? Because I will. Ava's face paled. She hadn't expected me to stand up to her like this. She'd expected the same scared, lonely girl she'd manipulated before. You don't understand what it's like, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. To build something online and then watch it all disappear. My sponsors dropped me. My followers left. My parents took away my phone for 2 weeks. Do you know what that feels like? For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then I remembered Tommy's face when she deliberately popped those balloons. I remembered the panic in my parents' voices when they thought I was dead. Actually, I do know what it feels like to watch your life fall apart, I said quietly, because you made it happen to me. The difference is, I didn't deserve it. A campus security officer appeared at Ava's side. Ms. Jousey, I need to ask you to leave the premises. You're violating the terms of your suspension. Ava looked around the dining hall, suddenly aware that everyone was watching. Her carefully crafted victim narrative was crumbling in real time. With one last glare at me, she turned and stormed out, her companions trailing behind her, looking confused and embarrassed. As soon as she left, the dining hall erupted in chatter. People came up to our table to check if I was okay. A guy from my psychology class who I'd barely spoken to before offered to walk me to my next class, just in case. It was weird having so many people suddenly concerned about me, but also kind of nice. That evening, Lisa burst into our room waving her phone excitedly. You have to see this, she exclaimed. She showed me a video that was circulating on campus social media. Someone had recorded my confrontation with Ava in the dining hall and posted it. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive of me, with many people sharing their own negative experiences with Ava. But the real bombshell came from one of the girls who had accompanied Ava to campus. She had posted a lengthy statement distancing herself from Ava, explaining that she'd been misled about the situation and apologizing for her role in it. She included screenshots of messages where Ava had coached her on what to say and how to act during the confrontation. She's completely done now, Lisa said, flopping onto her bed. No one's going to believe anything she says after this. I should have felt triumphant, but mostly I just felt tired. The whole saga had drained me in ways I hadn't realized. I'd spent so much energy fighting Ava's lies that I hadn't had much left for actually enjoying college or focusing on my classes. The next few weeks were surprisingly quiet. Ava's social media accounts went dark. Rumors circulated that she'd transferred to a school in another state or that she was taking a mental health break at home. I didn't really care where she was, as long as it wasn't here. I slowly settled back into a normal college routine. My grades improved as I was able to focus on schoolwork again. I made real friends, not the superficial connections Ava had offered. I even started dating a guy from my calculus study group who'd been supportive throughout the whole ordeal. One Saturday morning, I was having breakfast with my parents and Tommy, who were visiting for the weekend. Tommy was arranging his pancakes in a perfect circle, carefully placing each blueberry in a specific pattern. My mom was telling me about some drama in their neighborhood, and my dad was pretending to listen while scrolling through sports scores on his phone. It was so normal, so peaceful, that I almost didn't check when my phone buzzed with a notification. But curiosity got the better of me, and I glanced down to see an email from Dr. Williams. I wanted to inform you that Ms. Josie has officially withdrawn from the university, the email read. She will not be returning. I hope this brings you some closure, and I commend you for your resilience throughout this difficult difficult situation. I put my phone down and looked at my family. Tommy had finished arranging his food and was now happily eating, occasionally making dinosaur noises between bites. My parents were bickering good-naturedly about whose turn it was to clean the gutters when they got home. Everything okay? My mom asked, noticing my expression. I nodded. Yeah, everything's good. And for the first time in months, I really meant it. Ava was gone. Her lies had been exposed. The truth had won. I picked up my fork and stole a blueberry from Tommy's plate, laughing when he protested loudly. Later that day, I took Tommy for a walk around campus. He was fascinated by the old buildings and the squirrels that darted across the quad. We stopped by the campus bookstore, where I bought him a university t-shirt that he immediately put on over his regular shirt. As we were leaving the store, I spotted a familiar face. It was Catherine, the girl who had first sent me the recording of Ava at the party. She waved and came over to say hello. Is this your brother? She asked, smiling at Tommy. I nodded. Tommy, this is my friend Catherine. Tommy looked up from the squirrel he'd been watching. Hello, he said, not making eye contact but giving a little wave. I like your shirt, Catherine told him. That blue is my favorite color. Tommy beamed. Blue is the best color. It's the color of the sky and the ocean and blueberries and my dinosaur. Catherine listened patiently as Tommy listed every blue thing he could think of. She didn't interrupt or look uncomfortable. She just let him talk, nodding and smiling. When we eventually said goodbye and continued our walk, I felt a surge of gratitude. For Catherine, for Lisa, for all the people who had stood by me, for my family, who had never doubted me, even for Dr. Williams and the university administration, who had ultimately done the right thing. That evening, after my parents took Tommy home, I sat on my bed scrolling through old photos on my phone. I came across a picture from last fall, me and Ava at that brunch where she'd made me wait an hour to eat while she took photos. I was smiling in the picture, but I could see now how forced it looked, how uncomfortable I really was. I deleted the photo and blocked Ava's number for good measure, even though she hadn't tried to contact me again. Then I texted the group chat with my new friends to see if anyone wanted to grab dinner. As I walked to the dining hall to meet them, I passed the spot where I used to sit alone during those first lonely weeks of college. It felt like a lifetime ago. I was a different person now, stronger, wiser, less desperate for approval. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. Grabbed us a table by the windows. Hurry up. They have those cookies you like tonight. I smiled and picked up my pace. The past was behind me. Ava was gone. And I had a whole future ahead. One filled with real friends, honest connections, and not a single fake Instagram post.